Hello, beautiful souls. Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today is Thursday. Today is the 4th of July. I can't help but make a video now that I'm doing the video thing about today. So, Independence Day. I want to invite or challenge or dare everyone who is celebrating Independence Day to really be honest with yourselves about what you're celebrating, or what you think you're celebrating, or what you think you have. You know, independence is being free. Independence is not being controlled. Independence is not being under the rule of someone else. Who's independent? But in the macro, I'm definitely not. Am I independently working myself in the confines of the rule that I am under? Definitely. Am I independent? Do I live in this world, in this planet, in this country, freely? No. Do any of us? No. We might definitely live within the amount of independence that we can. We might definitely, some of us have different margins than others, for sure. But who here is 100% independent? And independent doesn't mean that you are a strong, grown, independent black woman that don't need no man. Independent doesn't mean that you don't live with your parents. Independent doesn't mean that you got your own job and you can pay your own bills. Independent means that at any point in time, on any day, you can do anything that you want. Who can do that? Because I don't work for a corporation, I don't have to clock in or out, I work for myself, and I'm still not completely independent. I have to get my car registered, my new car, because I'm not independent, you see. I have to pay the government that owns me, that owns my car, that owns my home. I have to pay them to drive a car that I pay for. I have to pay the government in order to own something I want. Who's independent? I have to pay taxes. I have to pay rent. Who's independent? Independence means that we are each in of ourselves, each individually sovereign. Who's independent? Independent means that when someone is born into this world, when someone comes here through their mother, they don't have to pay to be here. Who's independent? When did we become independent people? If we're talking in the context of governments and countries, our country became independent from someone else's rule on the 4th of July. Well, that's when the Declaration was made. But just because the country runs itself independently as a country, that doesn't mean the people of that country are independent. That doesn't mean the people of that country are free. Who's been tricked? we're not independent. Unless there's something going on that I don't know about, which is totally plausible. Completely possible. I will not say that that's not going on. Maybe. But who's independent? The last time I checked, in order to run your own business legally, you have to have a license given to you by the state in order to do something that you enjoy, that you love, that you're passionate about, and not get arrested. You have to have a license. You have to have the government tell you that that's okay to do so. The last time I checked, the woman who grows her own crops and loves cooking for people and wants that to be her source of living, she wants that to be her welfare, her livelihood, everything she dedicates her life to. In order to do that, in order to do what she loves, in order to do what she's passionate about, she has to get that approved by the state, by the government. Who's independent? I'm confused. I've been confused for my whole life. What are we celebrating? What are you celebrating? Really think about this. Independence means not having to answer to someone else. So if you have a job that you have to clock in and out and you have a manager, you're not independent. I'm sorry. Who's independent? Even if you are an entrepreneur and you work for yourself like I do, there are taxes that need to be paid, not independent. And I'm not saying that things should be lawless and people should be able to fuck each other up and beat someone without getting... That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what we've been given is not independence. What we've been given is not freedom. In order to go to another country, we need to have this thing called a passport. If you don't have a passport, you can't go to another country. Who's independent? In order to drive a car, you have to pass a test that's given to you by a state or federal agency, whatever, the DMV. That's not independent. And again, I'm not saying that people, that a 4-year-old should be able to drive a car. I'm not saying that someone who doesn't know how to operate a vehicle should be driving one. What I'm saying is, what we live in is nowhere near independent. Really challenge yourself to open this up. Really challenge yourself to think outside of what you've been told you are, because someone can feed you the concept of being independent. Like, when we were born, if we were told that we were elephants from the day that we were born, we would all be walking around thinking that we were elephants. If we were to, let's say a group of us, went and secluded ourselves in the mountains somewhere, and from that day forward, every child that was born, we told we were elephants. Of course they would think they were an elephant. They would have no context. They would not have maybe seen an actual elephant or known that, like, human is a term. It's like, I was listening to someone a year or two ago. He made a really interesting point. I don't even remember what he was talking about at the time. But he said, and I wish I could remember his name. He said, we're like a zoo. The first animals that were taken into the zoo, the first animals that were ripped away from their homeland and brought and put in these confines and these structures and had humans gawking at them, they knew that the situation they were in was not right. They knew that the situation they were in was not home. They knew that they were not supposed to be there, and they were being held there against their captivity. Excuse me. I don't know why I just said that. They were being held in captivity against their will. And so, the first generation of tigers born at the zoo were born into the zoo. That's all they knew. But their parents were still like, no, this is not where we should be. This is not right. This is not okay. So the children had some sort of sense of, maybe this isn't right, but this is where I am, so I'll make do with what I have, but my parents don't seem to like it here, whatever. 5 generations down the line, they forget that they're from Africa. They forget that they're from South America. They forget that they're from Europe, wherever the animals were brought from. And so then, every generation that comes after believes that they belong in a zoo. They believe that that is their homeland, you see. They're not from the zoo. They're not independent. Instead of maybe blindly celebrating a holiday that's on a calendar that someone told you is a day of freedom, go look up the definition of freedom. Go look up the definition of independent. And ask yourself if that's something that you actually have. Are you able to do, and technically, are we all able to do anything that we want? Sure. Why not? But can we do that without repercussion? Can we do that without having to pay for it? Can we do that without someone stopping us? Can we do that without it going against the law? Who is independent? Whose independence is everyone celebrating on this day? Because it ain't mine. Probably isn't yours. This is a call to awareness. Hopefully a call to action. I get that we've been told our whole lives that we're free. I get that we were given books and paperwork and homework, and we did tests and quizzes and dressed up like George Washington. Like, I totally get it. But who the fuck is independent here? Because I personally don't know a soul who is. And if we want to go spiritual, technically all souls are, but I don't know anyone on this physical 3D earthly plane who does not have to answer to someone, does not have to pay in order to exist. Listen to that. Does not have to pay in order to exist. We literally have to pay in order to exist. That is not freedom.